Brought the Hermes you had on Kepler here. This time, you'll have additional forces. This will be a good opportunity for you to get used to controlling multiple units at once. As before, your link to this world's through your Hermes scout. Do not let it be destroyed.
Good morrow, everyone. How are you? I hope you're having a ripper of a day. If you are, I'd very much appreciate a like on the video. If not, then no worries, we'll get straight into it. In today's episode of Random Steam Games, a series where I play games that I've received in G2A Steam bundles, I spent some time in the Ashes of Singularity universe with Ashes of Singularity Escalation, originally released as a DLC to the main game, but later merged into one single package. The original release squared fairly average reviews, but with the Escalation expansion, the title boasts a respectable score of 81 on Metacritic and a mostly positive score on Steam out of 22,000 reviews. Now, ASE is what's considered a massive scale real-time strategy game developed by Oxide Games in coordination with Stardocked Entertainment, originally released in 2016. Stardocked Entertainment have an extensive experience with RTS titles, which include the Galactic Civilization series, the Elemental series, and the most recent entry in the Political Machine series. The latter is a game that I actually want to check out when I have some spare time. The RTS genre has always been that one style of game to constantly lure me in and then immediately spit me back out. Outside of Age of Empires, strategy games as a whole have always seemed to be too complicated for my tiny little manlet brain to grasp. I've always wanted to get into the genre, mostly from watching copious amounts of the Spiffing Brit, but the idea of meticulously managing civilizations every step is so enticing, but no matter how many attempts at trying various titles, none clicked. ASE did click for me, and then it didn't, and then it did again. And then I got bored, and I was infinitely happy to uninstall it. This was such a strange transition from my first memories of the game. When completing the tutorial, I was genuinely excited. I thought I'd finally found the RTS game for me, a game I was very much happy to slot into the limited time available for me to play. And yet, after that initial courtship, I didn't have the time to play for a few days and found I had to drag myself to the computer desk and boot up Steam, only to stare at the main game before reluctantly hitting play with a deep sigh. So, what went wrong? It's difficult for me to explain. The game itself is polished. This isn't a bad game at all. I found the graphics to be more than acceptable, especially considering the game is swiftly approaching its 6th birthday. Everything from the buildings to the ships show that true effort has been put into the designing of these assets. Nevertheless, visually they're the same. When you have more than 6 buildings or ships in a small area, distinguishing the individual units is frustrating. Once in a firefight, should I need to use a certain unit, I had to paddle my way through a mass of colourful lasers and chrome, clicking on each one of them until I found the right unit. The story is interesting to a point. You play as a post-human, a being who has uploaded their consciousness to some great galaxy-wide server, and now you're able to possess spacecrafts. Some people want to call them the Space Priests and have you removed, while others want to use you to win a few Rocket League matches. This is obviously an extremely paraphrased version of events, but generally I'm pretty spot on.
The situation is spiraling out of control, Mac. Claim jumpers were a problem before. Now with someone killing our people, it's going to get worse.
We're studying the remains of the alien vessel. Its technology is similar to our own.
They also have technology we don't have. Shields and high-powered energy weapons. And they're able to turn post-humans into mindless slaves.
On that end, I've had Promethean begin rolling out a new decentralized AI system to prevent that.
Do you think that is wise, Mac? Isolating post-humans will make them less inclined to cooperate with the PHC.
Better to be isolated than a slave, Ailey. At least everyone will still hear your sweet voice.
My gripe aside, gameplay is standard for any RTS. At least I believe it is. You construct buildings to assemble units as fast and strategic as possible, but faster and more strategic than your opponent, while gathering materials and upgrades to continue your speedy strategies. Some structures produce offensive units from the factory that gives basic cannon fodder that takes a minute amount of time to produce and equally minute amount of time for them to be obliterated, faster than cake in front of your mother. You have another factory that produces beefier units named after the Greek pantheon that can take more damage and hand it straight back, but will take longer to phase into existence, longer than your mother when she's walking back to the car after freeing the buffet from all its food. There's defensive units and buildings naturally, and assuredly many more assets that only become available after progressing further into the game. But this is the first stop on the train to realizing why RTS games don't sit with me, at least those that are similar to ASE. They are complicated, with many different mechanics and systems all mingling at the same time. Keeping track of these at first felt challenging yet rewarding. Initially, the player is slowly drip-fed the game's systems, with each new mission giving you new units and buildings with a set condition for achieving victory. Then, you're given a mission where suddenly there are a multitude more units to build and no explanation as to what they do. The ice magic on top of the ice cream is a time limit before a bigger, badder enemy comes storming in to break up your little party. I'm going through all the footage now, and rest assured, I was watching a video on my other monitor at the time this took place.
Our Nexus is taking heavy damage. The enemy captured a generator.
This happens to be the exact moment I decided this game wasn't for me. I played a little further in, reaching the self-imposed 4-hour mark, cooked dinner, and then celebrated with a glass of Pinot Noir and uninstalled it. Again, this isn't because this game is bad, not at all. In fact, I think it's made very much so for RTS fans, and that may be the issue. Not all games are made for everyone. For example, I recently started playing Far Cry 5 after enjoying the trailers for Far Cry 6 and getting fairly excited for the game. Nevertheless, I now finally understand how horrible Ubisoft titles have devolved. I may one day do a video regarding my feelings on Far Cry 5. Having said that, again, not all games are made for everyone. However, there is a distinct difference between making games for everyone and making games for fans. ASE is undoubtedly a game for fans, a game that throws a lot of mechanics and systems your way, all at once, while not really allowing you to soak up what you've been learnt, or what you're expected to do. This is not a game for someone such as you're truly, who is new to the genre. This game is aiming at veterans of the RTS genre, and yet welcoming new players is an art that many games find themselves struggling with. Allowing a new player to enjoy a game can be difficult. You neither want to hold their hand too much, nor allow them to drown. If that wasn't enough, you can't ignore the existing player base, and therefore need to ensure that they aren't being chaperoned through streets they've walked before. It's a balancing act, and not all games pull this off, yet not all games need to. Unfortunately, that's the case with ASE. My first experience with the title was fantastic. I'm unable to remember the last time I had as much fun as I did with the tutorial, and it was sadly all downhill from there. As a new player, I felt lost, overwhelmed, and eventually bored. As I said earlier, this isn't so much a reflection on the game and its foundations, but rather the audience the game was made for, an audience with experience not only for the genre, but perhaps also for the series. If you are a fan of the RTS genre and haven't played ASE, I thoroughly recommend it. However, if you're like myself and are wanting to get into the strategy field, then please avoid this game. Thank you very much for watching. I hope all of you have a fantastic day. It's a crazy world out there, so take care. See you later.